Today, we're looking at a social impact startup with a really, really cool message that also happens to be tackling one of the hardest problems in HR: how to turn really heavy and uncomfortable topics into something workplaces can actually act on. Their homepage had lots of heart, lots of purpose, but were they burying some of their key value props under all of that purpose driven language? We dug into how to reframe their message around what their buyer feels right before they sign, and how their mascot might inadvertently be their strongest brand asset, and how to lean into that. Let's dive in.
My name is Mikhara. My pronouns are she, her. Most of my friends call me Mix, and I'm one of the co-founders of Capable. Capable helps workplaces understand where they are and how to achieve where they want to go when it comes to the moments that really matter for their employees. Moments such as experiencing mental health, experiencing harassment, bullying, discrimination, experiencing domestic and family violence. These things don't stay at the door when we enter our workplaces or when we enter our desk working from home. And we help chief people officers, we help executives and directors design workplaces with standards that reflect their actual values and their culture.
Yeah, that is such a noble mission, and one that is so often overlooked in workplaces when everyone's like, oh, just leave your personal life at the door, when in reality, that isn't always going to be the case if you're going through the most traumatic time of your life or something like that. Can you maybe walk through a little bit about how you came up with the idea for Capable? And I'm hoping I said that right.
Yes, you did. Thanks, Jess. Yeah, some
Awesome.
people
So tell me
say,
a little bit more about how you came up with the idea for Capable, and kind of what kind of your overall mission with the company is.
yeah, and Jess, you touched on something so fundamental there, particularly in that moment of crisis. But to get to that point, particularly around things like mental health deterioration, we think about domestic family violence. It's such a long lead up. And I think what really motivated us is we spend on average a third of our life, like our whole
Mhm.
life, in workplaces. Our colleagues, our boss, they're the things we often think about. What happened at work today as we're falling asleep? And these people and these structures are so significant in our personal well-being and how we navigate in the world. And we thought the motivation for Capable is we got so excited sort of 2 years ago when we started the company with the advent of introduction of technological tools like machine learning, like AI. And we thought, isn't this an amazing opportunity to use tech for good and revolutionize a space where we see a lot of generic out of the box materials? There's standardized e-learning, there's a standard policy, there's standardized training. And we saw the potential for AI to make these existing materials so personalized and customized to a person's actual workplace. Like if you're a two-person team in a rural country versus a 500 team that's expanding, a scale up, we thought AI could help make these existing tools personalized to people's actual challenges and therefore make it easier and more efficient to implement and create workplace structures that they're proud of, that they want to go to and be leaders of.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about what your background is, and maybe the background of your co-founders,
Yeah,
just over
absolutely.
how you were able to kind of come up with the solution to such a gnarly problem?
Yeah, thanks, Jess. And it's a big problem. Look, always looking for more of us in the space to challenge us. I think the market's big enough. And
Mhm.
my co-founder is Dr. Cameron Cliff, and both of us have been working in the social impact, social enterprise space for many, many years. Myself was at the forefront of creating Australia's first culturally and linguistically diverse, or people of color, LGBTIQA platform to capture stories that weren't in existence at the time or weren't distributed. And Cam had done his Churchill Fellowship in Domestic and Family Violence Prevention and was working at a big unicorn in e-learning. And him himself is a filmmaker as well as an academic. And we've both been friends for a long time, and we were both really excited to use technology on problems we cared about. So whilst the existing focus is on looking at domestic and family violence specifically, the theory or the thinking behind Capable is work with experts and frontline expertise, people who've actually experienced what would have actually helped them in those moments in their workplace to prevent, respond, and recognize, and then use those expert frameworks, create the workplace's reality, like what actual workplace are you, not generic, and then use AI to bring the two together so the impact is highly customized. And with those frameworks could be extensive, from mental health psychosocial hazards, workplace health and safety, preventing discrimination, preventing bullying and harassment. And so we saw a really natural circle there to do impact at scale. And that's what motivated us.
Yeah, I love it. And you both have like really clear backgrounds and a deep, like extremely deep expertise when it comes to social impact at scale as it is. So that makes a ton of sense. Shifting gears a little bit into what Capable actually does, who is kind of, I can imagine this is a hard topic to market because most people don't really want to think about this in that regard, but who is typically the end buyer of what I think is like a service with also software tied to it? Like, who is kind of the end buyer? What does the buying cycle look like? Is it one person? Is it a buying committee? Walk me through a little bit of how that kind of comes about.
Yeah, and Jess, you're spot on. Unfortunately, there is so much stigma when it comes to these topics. They're heavy topics. We do a lot of education in the space. I'd say that is part of it. Whilst everyone knows these problems exist very widely in our society, and statistics are so high. Reality is when as soon as you're in a 20-person or more company, you're working with someone who's experiencing domestic and family violence. You're working with someone who's experiencing mental health. So these are lived realities we see around us or may have experienced ourselves. And I think the education piece we have to do and the onus we have to shift is increasingly these are not issues that we just leave at home. They are workplace health and safety issues. They come with us. They come with our beings. They affect our teams, our peers, our managers. And I think for workplaces, the way I always view it is it's such an opportunity to be there for an employee in moments that actually matter. And when you show up for someone in those times of needs, well, think about the loyalty, think about the reduction in absenteeism, in retention that we see when you actually show up for people in moments that matter. So back to your question about who then looks to create that. Often in our medium-sized companies, we see it's the chief people officer. So we often have one decision maker. They might not necessarily be the buyer. They often are, given our price points, often fall within their budgets. But we found the onus is often put on them to do all things people. Corresponding roles often the chief operations officer, the COO. But we find actually where we get the most traction is when we get the leaders, when we get a director, when we get a CEO, when we actually get like a CTO who understands, well, this is so inherent to my culture and achieving my objectives, my goals. Like if I want to hit those OKRs, those KPIs, and I can create a culture that supports people when they're at their most vulnerable, we see the correlation and the payback immensely. So often we have one buyer or decision maker. It's often at that executive level, and they similarly are our users. We're not e-learning. We're not an HRIS system, so we don't charge per an employee either. Rather, this is a tool for that executive or leader to monitor their workplace, to understand their risks, and then we integrate with your existing HR system, with your existing LMS systems, and then you can monitor as a whole. I kind of think of us as a Vanta for HR, Vanta being in the digital security space. We're in the human culture and well-being space.
Yeah, it's a really cool analogy. And you said something there that was really interesting, which is you kind of started out saying, hey, like those like two people officers are our buyer, maybe a COO. But then you kind of just hedged a little bit where you were talking about how when you kind of talk to a CEO or maybe even a founder at kind of these medium-sized companies or larger companies, you tend to get buy-in faster. Which is it? Like, are you really, dedicated to reaching out to the CPO, or are you actually realizing, hey, maybe all of our actual buyers are actually coming from the CEO level?
Yeah, it's the latter. I think interestingly, early on, we found when we did go through the CEO and then got passed to the CPO, there was a bit of an air of defensiveness, like, oh, don't you think I'm already doing this, which is so fair. And really, why I'd love your help too is I feel like we're a bit of a small blue ocean in a sea of red. There's heaps of e-learning platforms out there. There's heaps of HR systems out there. There's heaps of kind of tools and AI tools for HR and advice. But no one is connecting all these tools in the workplace. And traditionally, how that's often been done is with consultants. Like we outsource. We say, oh, can you come in externally and do a current state assessment? Can you look at the gaps? Can you then recommend best practice? And that's ultimately what Capable is looking to replace with technology or support with technology, particularly those consultants who are frontline experts and want to make that knowledge more accessible to lots of workplaces. So we found the pivot came about because when we actually get to speak to the leaders and the board in particular first, a lot of that education piece we have to do is they start to see actually how applicable this is to their risk, to their governance, and to actually achieving living their values, which so many boards and leaders want to do. So we get that buy-in a lot quicker, and we find sometimes they want us to work directly with a set of managers. The CPO is too under-resourced. They're trying to just do BAU, and now we're introducing new ways of working. So that insight has been really interesting, and one we're still exploring.
Yeah, to be blunt, I'm kind of hearing conflicting answers here.
Okay.
So which is it? Like, are you, when you're going out and doing kind of your sales and marketing, who is the person that you're trying to reach first? Is it the direct manager, a director, a CPO, a board member, a COO, a CEO? Who's kind of that first point person that, if we reach them first, we have a really good shot of closing a deal?
Yeah, and you're spot on, Jess. It's conflicting because it's so dependent on the size of the company. So for enterprise companies, like there's no way we're going to get in front of the CEO and the board, and they have designated roles for this. So in there, it's often the chief people officer, the chief risk officer. And then in medium, we find it can be more at that director level. And then in small, it's the founders.
Got it. And is there a particular size of the market where we're capable to shines and you just find product service market fit a lot faster?
Yeah, I think that's the heart of the conflict. When we started, our goal was to really serve small and medium businesses, which employ the majority of people. But we found our tech product isn't at the level where they can self-serve. We're yet to find product market fit in that area. So where we are getting traction is in enterprise. So longer burn, bigger clients, needing more consulting aspect. Hence, I think of us as consulting through a tech product, if I had to describe where the company is now. But the goal and the vision is to be that self-serve product. So all founders or people who care about their company, whatever role that is in there, they could action this.
Got it. So if you're right now thinking you actually do need to go after the enterprise, so you're speaking to the chief risk officer or the chief people officer, that makes a ton of sense. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up your homepage and just start to walk through it section by section.
Feel free to rip it apart. All feedback's good and helpful, so thank you.
I love it. So the first thing I'm immediately seeing on your homepage is a really, really clean design, a really cool and very cute capybara mascot that kind of works very well with your whole capable theme. I really like that. And then I'm seeing welcome to Capable, designing workplaces with lived experience, and then learn more as your CTA. So the immediate thing I first am looking at, seeing that I've looked at, dozens and dozens of these across quota jams, and then also in my work with clients, is I'm immediately out with the learn more yellow CTA. And I'm like, okay, learn more about what? Can we get a little bit more specific? Are you trying to get people onto a demo call or a sales call? Are you trying to get them to try out your tech platform? What's kind of the CTA that you want?
Oh, great pickup, Jess. Yeah, I want that goes to a contact form, like that goes to an email. I want them to reach out, which is probably asking a lot. I want them to fall in love or understand the difference that Capable's trying to do, and I want them to be part of the journey. So I'm asking a lot from our user there. It's not I don't have the product, like the tech product, in a place where I can say, learn more and here's a demo, or learn more and here's a playground environment you could play in. It's really so the jump from here's the website to please talk to me. I want to tell you more.
Got it. So if you're directing them to a contact form, what happens next? Is it getting on a call?
Yes, I contact them and say, thanks for notice you're interested in Capable. Like, what made you interested? What are some of your? I try to get onto a 15-20 minute actual Zoom or phone call with them, or at least build that with email so we can jump on a call to understand what brought you to this, and what are you most excited about right now when it comes to the space, and what's your biggest challenge. Those are kind of the three questions I try to understand next.
So the immediate first quick one for you would be change learn more as your CTA and book it to go to schedule a call. It can still literally just be the same contact form, so you can kind of guide if it makes sense to hop on a call or not based off of your own criteria. But that is infinitely going to improve conversion than something that is vague, like learn more.
Okay, so book a call, or like
you might want to. You can experiment with different types of CTAs. But in general, what I would recommend and what I usually do with clients as well as it's in these clarity jams is just change it to book a call or schedule a call.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Jess.
And then have you have that be a pop-up to literally do a message. So the next thing I'm immediately seeing is your H1, designing workplaces with lived experience. So just out of complete knowing only what I know, and maybe even less than that, to me, it's a little unclear. Is this software? Is this consulting? Is this consulting and software? And also, what's kind of in it for the CPO or the chief risk officer? Like, why should they care about this?
Okay, the benefits aren't there. Like, I think something I struggle with, Jess, is the carrot and the stick in this. There's so much risk when things go wrong, and I know that's often what gets the most traction. But then the carrot is, and what I find with CPOs in particular, who are there for the people, like the carrot people, they're doing this job because they want people to enjoy their workplace design. You know, we can have topics like, you know, workplaces where your people can thrive, like that kind of language versus the Vanta kind of language of know your risk and action it sort of thing. I don't know. Do you have any guidance on like what is better to go with, like carrot or stick messaging?
I'm gonna let me put a pencil on that for just a second, and I will totally revisit that. But I'm almost wondering if to even get even more clear when you're kind of going into your H1 being designing workplaces with lived experience. Yeah, it's not even just software consulting. It could literally be like, is this, if I didn't know the next line, which was our mission is to transform workplaces from barriers to safe havens for those experiencing domestic and family violence. If that entire paragraph was missing, it could literally read as, are you like an ergonomic furniture company or something like that as well, which sounds so random, but like that's kind of the bit to your point, going back to what you said, like the carrot or the stick. My question back to you would be, when you are getting on these calls with CPOs and the minute before they actually sign the contract and become a client, what are they kind of thinking or feeling in that moment?
What are they thinking or feeling about?
Like, what are they kind of thinking and feeling about Capable the minute before they sign the contract? So not when you first talk to them, but like at the very end of kind of the sales cycle, what are they kind of thinking or feeling?
I think one client in particular comes to mind that said it so well. It's like, you just made this lower hanging fruit. It's work we've been meaning to do for so long, keeps getting on the back burner, but you just made it feel really easy to do. And I'm just so glad we can finally do it. Like, it's been on my books for years.
Yeah. And then, okay, that's really helpful. What was that work that they were thinking about at that time? Like, why now? And or why are they caring about it now?
Yeah, the work they were thinking about is they'd been wanting to review their domestic and family violence policy for many years. And then they wanted to have some sort of e-learning or like a bit of like something they could signal on the onboarding of their employees that this is an issue we care about, we support, and like we have the resources to do that. And they had been meaning to update the onboarding packs and been meaning to review the policy for ages, but it always got on the back burner.
Got it. Can you consolidate that a little bit more into like a few sentences?
The feeling they have just before signing.
Yes.
Capable help me review and uplift our domestic and family violence supports at our workplace quickly and cheaply.
So if I were to kind of sum up, and again, this is going to get a little bit messy because I'm hearing this from you and not hearing this directly from kind of a client call or a sales call. If I were to kind of sum it up, it's sort of like made something that felt really, really heavy and was always important, but never the most urgent thing, feel actionable and like easy to do now, and also at the right price. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah.
In that case, that's what I would call your messaging wedge, aka that thing that someone is thinking right before they sign up and become a client. And that's what you should kind of lead with, that feeling and or that wedge directly in your H1. So instead of it being designing workplaces with lived experience, lean right into, hey, we're taking this really, really heavy, uncomfortable topic that nobody wants to be thinking about. But we know it's super, as a CPO, we know it's super freaking important, but maybe never the most urgent thing. And Cable Mill makes this cheap, easy to do, cheaper, and just like feels like less heavy to do. That's what I would lean into. And then also put in that H1 as well. We do this for enterprise companies or for CPOs.
Okay. Put that ICP, like who we're actually winning work in there. Okay, cool.
So I would just say, like, lead with that messaging wedge and lead with that feeling that you just described. and then put for enterprise companies as your H1. And then suddenly your mission makes a lot more sense because you're being able to help someone see within 3 seconds that, okay, this is what capable is, and this is why it helps us.
Does it matter
or why not it is?
Does it matter if the H1 is like long? We thought it had to be like catchy, like things we played about was like people over paperwork, and like lived experience is a very meaningful word. Like if you're in the space, you know. Can it be long and unwieldy, or should it be like, must it be a sentence?
In general, you want it to be clear instead of clever. So
whatever clear instead of clever. I like that.
Someone can immediately see within 3 seconds whether or not capable is for them. That's what you should be leaning towards.
Clear instead of clever. That's great. Okay.
And then the next point is, I love the mascot. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that came about? And also, what is the link between the capybara and then also everything that you're doing?
Yeah, that's great. I don't think we tell that brand story, and I didn't know where that fits in. But in essence, why we picked the capybara as our mascot, and we picked it on very early, is when our focused ICP was chief people officers, we thought, wow, they really have to be like the capybara of the workplace. They have to get along with all these different animals, and they have to keep their head above water, and they have to keep the company afloat. And capybaras are known for being very friendly, very approachable animals. And they're hanging out with the crocodiles, they're hanging out in the mud, and they're just these giant rodents. And we thought they're a great play and mascot for what we're trying to do, as in terms of like, they're so approachable, and they also make these very heavy topics approachable. Like, these are things we want people to talk about more and support each other more in the workplace. So it felt like a approachable kind of way to do that. And joy is one of our metrics in our product and our value. Like, are we bringing joy to the people using it? Are we bringing joy to the end beneficiaries? And so the capybara just felt very joyful and capturing that. And the capybara came first, actually. Our original name was Organizational Design AI. We were ODAI, and then we played with the capybara, and we're like, oh, we want people to be capable. And that's how the name came about a year later.
I love that backstory, and that, like, I love how you just described that, and like, I can see so much passion around making those connections. But then I see your homepage, and that connection is completely missing. So I would almost challenge you to be like, can you just take that story that you just shared right there about how you kind of see it, and then just infuse that not only in the new H1, but also just within your mission and everything to do with your homepage, so it doesn't just read like a mascot or a gimmick, but it's so interwoven into the nature of what your company does.
Okay, cool.
So I'm going to move to the next section. So I'm kind of hearing now, see, hear, believe, and then you're kind of adding in it looks like some social proof. Yeah. And then you have something to follow your journey on LinkedIn. I like the social proof. My question is do you actually want to take people off of your homepage onto LinkedIn, or do you actually want them to fill out your contact form and get out the call?
Yeah, the latter. Like that's a better lead than a follow.
So I would then just take that same book a call and just replace it. So you have the same exact language, the same exact CTA, same exact button colors, and put that in here as well, and just get rid of the LinkedIn one to kind of further improve conversions. I love, again, the more social proof makes a ton of sense. Dig it. I would almost challenge you with this amazing video that you have right here. It is buried midway down the page. Why is that not
up here?
Up there. You could probably even have a version of this where your mascot is right here, and then you have like quotes of customers, because you have all of this. You already have a ton of social proof. Add your mascot and then add in some quotes from customers right in here, so it's immediately clear that, hey, this is a company that's been around. They're working with enterprise brands and very well-known established people. You and your co-founder both have deep backgrounds in social impact as well. So it's just immediately clear within 3 seconds what your wedge is, why people care, how the capybara is your mascot is related, and you also have social proof. And then, so the next section is, okay, so you're kind of talking into, I'm guessing, kind of the pain points that you solve.
Yes.
Legal compliance is evolving, safety is culture. You need smarter tools, not just more training. Questions for you. Is there a way to kind of further include kind of your whole mascot ethos and kind of your brand voice? And you mentioned like the joy metric and things like that into here. So it sounds a little bit less stiff and robotic and much more in the tone that you've described, and kind of the playfulness that is a very heavy topic.
Yeah, that's a great idea. No, that's missing. Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit more. Can you maybe tell me a little bit more about kind of what you think is missing and or what you could potentially do?
I think because we have to educate the market on their ability to act and that they can act in the space. Like I kept that very like non joyful, as you say. It's very like I tried to be like direct and target like existing things they do, which is often like, oh, we've got our policies, and it's like, no, that doesn't actually mean anything. You're more at risk for just having policies and not doing anything about it. And so these boxes, we're trying to talk to what we know a lot of workplaces do and think that they've done it, like the tick and box of things, and that actually doesn't make a difference, like even to their liability. So it was focusing on what the market knows and showing them, no, your current way of doing things is not acceptable anymore. Like the legislation's changed, people's employees' expectations have changed. Like that's what we want to help you address, like get to the next level. That's why, but instead of focusing on the carrot of well, we want to bring joy to this. We know it's heavy. So this was like my stick bit.
Have you thought about maybe taking kind of those educational points and turning it into an explainer video where you're a little bit more personable and kind of walking through it in a way that is still kind of educating on the points, but also doing it in a way that I would argue is a little bit more in your brand voice?
I didn't know. I wondered if people watch videos. I guess we put the captions and the loading, but you're right. Like the points would come across way better. Like it's not like people will read this either. Like it's a lot of text.
Yeah. I mean, you also have a video right here of a testimonial. So there's definitely, I would maybe push back a little bit and just say, hey, is there a way to kind of add in some of this text, but also do it in a way that is the same sort of approachable style that you've kind of explained everything else so far. And then I kind of see a sub CTA to go to your newsletter. I really like this. Okay. I would say one small thing you can do for conversions is to move this to the very bottom of your homepage. So therefore, the first thing you kind of want to have focus on is, again, kind of getting people to book that call. So if they're not ready yet, they go to their newsletter and they'll just scroll all the way down. I really like all of this. What I'm going to say to you is, okay, why is this buried almost at the bottom of your homepage? Shouldn't this be like, you'll often see it on like SaaS websites and even on service sites as well. You'll see that like row of logos right after the hero section. There's a reason for that. It converts, it catches your eye. It lets people know that you're really, really credible. You have all of these logos that I suspect you can have like 2 rows of that right after your hero section, and it's going to do so much more than where it is right now. Okay. And then you have more things about how you work. A little bit unclear to me. Yeah. Okay, like a 3-part process, or talk me through a little bit more about how the section works.
I think this is the section I'd love the most help with, because the disconnect to me is the market categories that exist and people know are the outputs. So they know I want e-learning, I want training, I want policy, I want a gap analysis. And Capable, we're trying to talk to the outcomes of those 3, like understand where you are, like from people who've actually been there and what would have helped them, get actions to get to the standard you want, and then get to monitor and continue to see that progress, like track, like that's the goal of the platform. Like know, plan, and act is kind of the 3 outcomes we like to get people to. And I was trying to explain that in many ways here.
Yeah, I like it. I think you just explained it infinitely better than what's on this page right now. Okay. So I would maybe say like how Capable works with you to transform your workforce into a culture of prevention. Have it be basically a kind of a 3-step process. Know, plan, and have it be those 3 things. And then maybe you have like a line, like a paragraph or 2 explaining what that is. That's going to be infinitely easier for a CBO to get. And also that kind of helps lead into what I would call the wow moments. So like you have kind of your when and why people are even considering this in the first place. And then those wow moments are like, I didn't even think about that. I didn't even realize that Capable does this. And that's the type of thing that's going to make it stickier and creates word of mouth referrals, and also even like retention or repeats. So I would maybe just kind of simplify the section down into that 3-part process. Yep. And then you have AI workplace design platform of people, not for people. This to me reads maybe a little bit too clever and not enough into exactly how beneficial Capable is, and also how much you make a very uncomfortable topic approachable and like feel actually doable. So I would like lean into that a little bit more. You're definitely hinting at it with like time saved per day and cost saved. Lean more into that and maybe change up that H2 to lean into it even more. And then you have your expertise section. This makes a ton of sense. No notes here. Definitely keep this as is.
Okay. Just, yep, all the people. Yep.
Yeah. So my last step is the frequently asked questions, which in your case are, what are kind of the key objections or the key reasons why somebody would not sign up?
I think it comes back to maybe even more internal. I think this so comes with like as the product grows, like I think a hesitation why people will sign up is, and what I've heard is like, is this even a gap? So there's a big cultural change, and as we see regulations change, I feel like we're kind of at the early start of it. So is this even a problem? And then if it is a problem, aren't I already solving this by having a policy and a chief people officer? Like, isn't this their job? So it's those are the two big education pieces we often have to overcome.
So in that case, I would make sure that both of those are front and center in your FAQ. FAQ shine on homepages when they're objection killers, not just basically telling you what kind of support you're going to get, which you can pretty much cover on a sales call or a couple of like emails back and forth. Same with pricing, unless pricing is a big objection. You can remove those ones and instead just be like, okay, why is this actually necessary? How is this different from an e-learning platform and all the other things you mentioned? And then also like, what is the actual gap? That should be front and center. So you could probably consolidate 9 FAQs right now into probably 3 to 5 that are really those core objections that are keeping people from filling out that form and booking a call.
Okay, that's great advice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jess.
Awesome. Is there anything else before we wrap up?
No, I'm glad we're recording because I need to go back and synthesize, and keen to see like the next iteration of this. I feel like it'll just like we're missing our joy. I think that was the biggest thing. Like we care so much about this, and I feel like, oh no, we've kind of made it static in trying to just think like, what do people care about instead of like our why. I don't think our why shines through.
Yeah, I actually think like probably the biggest opportunity you have is to infuse more of your, not only just your why, but more about kind of the backstory of your mascot. Because you explained that so well early on into all of the copy on your homepage, and then also just all of your copy and marketing across the board, and making that tie-in so much clearer is going to really help you stand out in a space that is oftentimes fully known as corporate robotic. So if you have that personality and kind of bring in into a very heavy topic that nobody really wants to do, but everybody knows they need to do, you're going to stand out and close a lot more deals.
Thanks, Jess. No, I'm excited to do that. That was really helpful. Thank you.
And thank you for hopping on and doing a Clarity Jam.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks, Clarity Jam. That was awesome. Thanks for organizing.